Born and raised in Las Vegas, primarily East Side, Northtown area. Spent a lot of time in Long Beach, California too, and Chicago. That's where a lot of my family's from. I'm the only one that's from Las Vegas. So growing up in Vegas is obviously way different, than growing up in like Chicago or Long Beach. So I was like the only kid that, lived out of state. So it would be different, when I would go back and see my cousins in California and hang out with them and then almost have to come back to Vegas sort of isolated, I guess. My dad, he grew up in Long Beach, specifically around the 90s. Long Beach in the 90s, so you have, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg,
Yo, Snoop Dogg and D.I.
Guess who's back?
NWA, Tupac, right? So you have all these like big influences in music and hip hop culture into, gang affiliation. And I think that shaped who I was because I feel like that shaped my dad in the sense I'm not gonna, say what his affiliation was, but majority of my family on my dad's side, are Crips. So me being able to see that type of lifestyle going to California and then coming back to Vegas was definitely different, growing up.
Was it something that you saw, obviously, with the gang affiliation and all that stuff? Would you think you kind of grew up, was it like more idolized in your eyes?
No, it was 100%. I'd rather not go down that path. Again, I think 100% me having my dad in my life and him having the upbringing that he had, he kind of let me know, at a young age, like what decisions not to make, because there were a lot of knuckleheads in my family, unfortunately. Like majority of my uncles are either dead or, I have a few that's in prison that are just now getting out after serving, 25 plus years. So I think my dad used those as examples, for me to see, what my actions or what the consequences could be if I make the wrong decision. I grew up primarily raised by my father. My mom was, in my life, but my parents divorced when I was like 1 or 2 years old. So I didn't really get like the normal traditional family household growing up. I spent a lot of time with my dad, and then, on the weekends I would go to my mom, or however they would split custody. My mom, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 5 years old. Seeing her health deteriorate over time, that was a lot, for me as a kid. My stepdad was also, I guess, active. Me and his relationship was, I guess, a little different. He used to put his hands on me. He used to beat on me as a kid. So I think growing up in a household, that was split, that was, there was times where, he would leave bruises on my body with how bad he would beat me. And my dad being active in my life, that didn't go over well with him. Growing up as an only child was rough. I spent a lot of time by myself. I didn't really have like a ton of friends, especially because I was, bouncing, between schools. So I think where I really found like a community, I would say, was when I started playing football. So I think when I was like 7 years old, my dad enrolled me in football, and my father was my football coach too. So that's how we bonded. Even though I was the only child, that's why I found my community and people was through sports. I guess like with football, yeah, there was discipline. I think I was still like a knucklehead at the end of the day. So I would say for me, playing sports was a big part of my life. It was something that I really, really enjoyed bonding over, especially with my father. I think there was a time, actually now that I'm thinking about it, there was a time specifically when I was like, 8 or 9 years old. And I think that's when I kind of started to understand that my parents are split. Going to football games and practices, I'm seeing mom and dad from other families be together. They're picking up their kid, riding together. I was trying to figure out why my parents couldn't be together. I think that was like the point where I kind of realized like, okay, like I don't have the normal life, of some other kids who have the happy family, So I think that kind of shaped me into being like I said, a knucklehead. There was structure, there was discipline in sports, but I feel like I was still like wanting to do what I wanted to do. I got into trouble. I would say, I think 7th grade, that's where it kind of started to get out of hand. Just the neighborhood I was growing up in. With my mom, there were a lot of gang members that were coming down from the nearby high school to the middle school, and they would pick on the kids. So I got bullied a lot. So I got tired of, fighting for myself. And again, me being the only child, I didn't have any cousins, to defend me. So a lot of these groups of kids had cousins and best friends, and I'm the new kid, on the street or a new kid at the school. So it was a point in time where I ended up carrying a pocket knife with me. I stole my stepdad's pocket knife, and I took it to school with me. And my mom found it in my bag and told my dad, my biological dad. And then when my father figured out, what was going on, then he was like, yeah, no. So then he moved me out of my mom's house, and then he moved me up to the suburbs for like 2 years just to try to take me out of that environment, just because he kind of seen where my life could be headed if I stayed in that neighborhood and went to the nearby high school. So I moved to the suburbs for a couple years. I think that was a culture shock too. That was like my first time being around like kids with money. So to see, Samantha getting, a BMW for her birthday with a ribbon on it, and here I am, we still broke. I live in the suburbs, but me and my dad weren't rich, So I think that was a culture shock to know that I'm not rich, but then to kind of be exposed to other kids that did have money. I think that's where that conversation changed with me, and that's when I really wanted to make money. I think there was a time period where I was like, I want to be rich. I don't know why, but I want to be rich. But that was a short period. I lived there for a couple of years, and then I actually got recruited when I was in high school to go to another high school in the east side. So that's where I ended up graduating from. I went to Chaparral High School over on the east side of Vegas. I did pretty well. I actually enjoyed my time, being back out east and playing for Chaparral. I had a pretty good career there, only being there for 2 years. I ended up being number 2 ranked at my position in the state. I also ran a 4x100 relay for track and field, and got a state ring in that. So my career in high school sports-wise was pretty good. I was getting recruited by schools like TCU, Eastern Washington, Wyoming, UNR, UNLV, but I couldn't go to these universities because I didn't have the grades when I ended up graduating. So I ended up having to go to a community college. So I chose to go to Arizona Western, which was at the time one of the best ranked community college in the country. So went there, played there for a couple years, graduated with my associate's degree in general business. And then after that, that's when I guess things kind of took a turn for me. Right after I graduated from community college, I moved up to Reno because that's where I was anticipating to go to school and play football. And things weren't just working out. That was my first time. Actually, never really told anybody this. I only think my dad knows this, but there was a time where I was homeless. There was a time where I was couch surfing. I was sleeping in my car. Things didn't really work out, so we ended up not having a place to stay for like a month or two. So when I first got to Reno, I was like, I guess my first experience with like someone close to me passing away. Other than, I had my grandmother who passed away when I was a kid, but it was my first time dealing with like a tragic death of a friend. In 2017, my friend, former teammate as well, Richard Nelson, he was shot and killed over winter break. He was only 19 years old.
Richard Nelson was shot and killed last night, and tonight his mom says he died protecting his sister.
Long story short, he got into an altercation with his sister's girlfriend, and I guess his sister's girlfriend's brothers came outside to, I guess, try to mediate the situation or to try to fight him or something. And, Richard, he was big. He was, 6'2", 200 pounds at the time. So, these little scrawny kids, I guess, didn't want to fight him. So when the altercation broke out, he's trying to stop it. He's trying to break up the fight. And for whatever reason, these two kids pull out a gun and they shoot him, I think 5 or 6 times. And he died in his mom's arms right in front of his house. And at the same time, like I said, couch surfing, being homeless, there was just like a lot going on when I first got to Reno. And then me and my girlfriend at the time, we ended up breaking up. So I was going through a lot like early in that year. And that's one of the hardest years of my life. And I think that was the point where I would say the depression, that's when it started. The depression, it didn't really, I guess, occur to me until I moved back to Vegas. So once I left Reno, when Reno wasn't working out, I broke up with my girlfriend at the time and I moved back to Vegas. There's a time period where I was training to go to UNLV to play football. And I had to pass an exam, like a mental health exam. And technically I failed the mental health exam. I was a few questions away from being clinically diagnosed with PTSD and depression. But for whatever reason, my doctor let me retake the test, and I just lied the second time around because I didn't want to miss out on the opportunity of playing football again, especially at the collegiate level. So I lied on my test, but I think that was the point where I was like, wow, I guess I am depressed. I didn't believe in it before. I didn't believe that any of that stuff exists. I was like, you're just soft, if you claim that you're depressed. But I was going through a real bad, mentally dealing with a lot. And there was a handgun that I had at the time. And I actually found myself having to sell it because I was not in the right headspace, honestly, to have a handgun. And that's when I knew that there was something wrong. The only reason why I didn't, go through this because I thought about my dad, to be honest. That's something he doesn't even know. He's going to find out right now. The only reason why I didn't take my own life is I thought about my father and how messed up he would be because I'm his only child. I'm his baby. So when I failed that mental health exam, that was kind of like, wow, maybe I should get some help. But I chose not to. I chose to just thug it out, and I ended up making the football team at UNLV, and I played there for a year, where I also studied communications and psychology. And that was kind of the reason why I wanted to study psychology when I was at UNLV, just because I was at that point kind of interested in my brain and other people's brain and how we think and why we think the way we do and stuff like that. So after I got done playing football at UNLV, I was kind of lost. I didn't really know what to do with my life because my whole life I've been so focused on football and sports and trying to make it to the NFL. And, when that didn't happen, I was like, who am I? What's my purpose? I didn't know how I was supposed to get rich somehow. And I was using sports as an avenue, but I didn't know what that was going to entail now if I'm not playing sports anymore. So it wasn't until I would say 2018, 2019, that's when I had met my business partner, Quentin, and we met through a mutual friend, and then that's when we launched our first business together. So we started iFocus Media Group here in Las Vegas, Nevada. It actually went really well. It went really, really well. We had some good times. We grew a lot very fast. Met a ton of people, worked with some great athletes, worked with people in the NFL, worked with people in the NBA, work with big name music artists, actors, you name it. We're working with all different types of people, just networking and really just hustling, really just grinding together. In the pandemic during COVID, we were opening shop, we were opening doors as people were closing doors, which is crazy.
Black History Month, News 3's Gabby Hart has been talking with two local African-American men who launched their digital media company in Las Vegas right in the middle of the pandemic.
That's right. These two men, one of who is a UNLV student, had a vision, and they brought it to life fairly quickly.
So people, were closing down shop because of the pandemic. We met an investor at the time who, believed in our vision, and we were actually, fortunate enough to open our business during COVID, and we're doing very well. But that was for a short period of time. Our investor, ended up backing out, but for the short time that we did have that business up running, it was very, very good. It was very lucrative as well. We made the news a few times, actually. Made the news here in Las Vegas, local news, and we had a good solid support system from people around the city who were coming into the studio to, get photos done, videos done. We're doing music videos, commercials, anything with a camera, you name it. We just had our hands in everything. Unfortunately, that's how life is. As things come up, things must come down. And 2020, that was the same year that as we're opening up shop and everything's going well with iFocus, I had to get news that my mom passed away. She passed away in July of 2020. She had a stroke. I got the news that she was in the hospital, and I'm texting her, and she can't respond. Her mobility's off. She can't talk either because her speech is impaired at the time. And I'm thinking she's in recovery. I'm thinking everything will be fine. I'll talk to her when things start to get better. And out of nowhere, I get a call from my aunt, saying that, that your mom passed away. And once again, throwing a curveball in life. But I didn't let it stop me, though. And that's why, for a lot of people, they may get choked up talking about it. They may cry. I think for me, I've built like a callus. I've built like a callus around my heart and around my mind. And I would say I'm pretty freaking strong because, in that time period, I think a lot of people were, worried about me and not really knowing how I would take it. And I really just blocked everything else out, and I just focused on building a business and focused on grinding, because I knew my mom wouldn't want me to stop and crawl in a ball and just act like life stops, you know? So unfortunately, I had to, you know, deal with the passing of my mom and not being able to say goodbye to her. I never got my final words with her. So that's something I got to live with for the rest of my life. Stepping into entrepreneurship when I did, and having all the things that were going on in my life, dealing with, you know, the death of my mom, I think it showed me very, very early that, like, you can't stop. You can't. It doesn't matter what happens in your life, and I'm a living testimony of that. It doesn't matter what happens in your life. If you really want to pursue something, you can't let nothing stop you. So our focus lasted, you know, for, you know, like a year, and then our investor pulled out, and we were just stuck. Like, you know, we didn't know what to do. You know, we were selling equipment. We were trying to find another investor. Me and my business partner at the time, we were just lost, honestly. And I think that's when I pivoted to solar. That's where now solar gets introduced into my life. My best friend, Tyree Jackson, he's the one that brought me in. I seen him doing solar at the time when I'm struggling, you know, to maintain and keep iFocus afloat as our investor's pulling out and doesn't want to invest in us anymore. I'm seeing him bring home, you know, me and him are roommates at the time. I'm seeing him bring home $20K, $25K in a month. So I'm like, word? So I let him know what's going on, you know, and he's like, you know, come shadow with me and I'll teach you the ropes. And then he brought me on board, and that's when my introduction to solar started, and that's when I started to really take off in that. Entrepreneurship for me, I was trying to, like, find a balance, you know, and I think solar provided that balance for me, because that's when I started to really, like, you know, make some good money, you know, having 5, 6, 7, 8K, you know, months. So for me at the time, like, that's good money, especially coming from where I was coming from. Entrepreneurship on the other end with iFocus, you know, we had months we were making 15, 20K too, but all that money's not for me. You know, we got to pay other people out. We had other people that was working for us. You know, we had to pay the rent there, you know, at the facility that we own. So, you know, making 10K now, making 10K back then is completely different. You know, if somebody was trying to get into solar and they were iffy, I mean, realistically, if I'm very thorough with people. I've recruited, I want to say at least 15 people in the past, you know, 2.5 years I've been doing this. And I tell people the same thing every time. If you're iffy on solar, entrepreneurship is not for you. Like, I don't think that if you're iffy and you're scared, honestly, entrepreneurship ain't for you, because entrepreneurship is scary, you know? It's 100% commission. If you don't go out there and make money for yourself, you don't make money. You're building a business. Simple. So if you're iffy on solar, if you don't want to give it a try, then you have to have that uncomfortable conversation with yourself if you want to be an entrepreneur, or do you want to work a 9-to-5 your whole life? And there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, we need people, you know, to work at the grocery store and bag our groceries up. That's just not going to be me, though.
What would be the best month that you brought home, if you feel comfortable sharing that with people?
My best month in solar so far has been 15, little shy of 16K.
Was there ever a time in solar in your career so far, have you ever had a month where you're like, I don't know if this is something I should do?
Man, what? So, I don't mean to, like, you know, keep doing this, but as things come up in my life, things come down. I had another unfortunate event, you know, where another friend of mine had passed away. It was actually, you know, one of my other partners. It was me and Quentin's co-partner in iFocus. He did a lot of our film stuff, and he actually helped us build the facility. And I want to say a couple of years ago, he passed away as well. He got shot and killed in a random act of violence at a gas station, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
A deadly shooting at a Las Vegas gas station has forever changed one family. Earlier this month, a 22-year-old man is accused of shooting into 2 parked cars before opening fire inside a gas station off Robindale Road and Jones Boulevard. Well, police say Curtis Abraham was in one of those parked cars and was killed after the suspect shot him several times.
So there was a point in time where I'm doing solar and I'm not really seeing the success I want, and then my boy Curtis passes away out of nowhere. And I remember having a conversation with myself on the balcony, because I think there was like a month or two, no, I think it was like 2 months and some change where I just wasn't cracking the deal. It just wasn't I wasn't getting any sales. I don't know what was going on. I had so many appointments set. So many people were canceling and rescheduling, and I was going through it. You know, bills were due, and I couldn't pay them. I had to use my credit card. I'm like, bro. And I remember crying. I remember praying to God. I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to teach me. I don't know what, you know, is going on or what lesson I need to learn, but I get it. Like, whatever it is, God, I get it. And I just stayed the course. And even through that time frame of not getting any deals, literally that following month was when I had my best deal at the time when I was an opener. I'm a closer now, but when I was an opener, I did it was a 12K month, almost a 13K month. So I was literally the month after, you know, me breaking down on my balcony, really trying to figure out, like, is this really for me? Like, am I supposed to be doing this? Do I just suck now? Like, and literally that next month, I made 12 bands. So stay in the course, man. That's what it's all about.